welcome back to the podcast, Tales from the Other Side, Stories of Grace. And I'm so excited today to introduce two friends of mine that I have grown to love over several years. Even witnessed a baptism, took part of baptism in the lake right here on Watts Bar. And little did I know, when I met you, you guys came down here, how God was going to take you on a journey that never even entered our minds at that time. Not mine. It may have been on your all's mind, but I have Garrett and Kim Davidson with us today. Thank you guys for coming out.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, y'all, how long have y'all been a part of the Grove?
We moved here. He moved here
ago.
October of 2019.
2019.
Now, hang on a minute. 2019. But before you say moved here, we need to tell them where you moved from. Where'd y'all come from?
Memphis.
All right. And then you have a background from Arkansas, maybe a little bit?
No.
You're just a fan?
Yeah, I grew up. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Let's go.
Memphis was terrible at football at the time.
Yeah.
And I hate the color orange.
Come on, dude.
So,
we don't just this. We never even going to talk about stories of grace. We're just going to start fist fighting right now.
Hey, I have no problem with UT.
Okay, good.
Until October 5th when we play.
He went to UT.
That's right.
Actually, I went to school at UT.
That's unbelievable, man. So, anyways, I knew you were an Arkansas fan.
Go Hawks.
I don't blame you for not pulling for Memphis. But orange is really nice. Yeah, we're pretty good at football. All right. So, anyways, you guys moved here 2019. He came first.
Yes.
He moved first, and then you joined him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just had a newborn. Liam was like a couple weeks old when he moved, and I had to finish out. I was a nurse, so I had to finish out my 2 weeks of pregnancy or maternity leave to be able to move here. So I'm back home with 2 kids, and he's here, and then we come in January, and we first started going to the First Baptist in Kingston.
Yeah.
That's where we met Gary.
Yeah, met Gary there. Yeah.
And it just didn't feel home just yet. We liked everyone there. It just wasn't our home church. And I was actually at a field trip with Leighton, and Stephanie Owings was there.
Yeah.
And she mentioned the Grove. And I was like, I've seen that on some shirts around here. Like, what's that about? And so she's like, well, why don't you come one day? And we came in the wrong door when we were at the old church. We came through the front.
Yeah.
So we passed right by you, and you immediately actually hugged us and shook our hand, and we were like, all right, we came in the wrong way. That was kind of embarrassing, but here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, I always
And
sit on
we
that side
stayed.
back in the old church. So now you're here, and it was a fit for you guys, and you got plugged in, and you guys are surrounded. Yeah, me, I've got so many friends. You're way integrated at this point. But what we're talking about today, that's awesome, right? That you're here. But we're not doing a podcast about how these wonderful people from Memphis that have Arkansas leanings in their football, how they integrated in the Grove. What we're actually talking about is, since you've been here, God has absolutely and in radical ways changed your lives.
Yes.
Right. And so today we're actually talking about adoption, because you all have a wonderful story of adoption, right?
We do.
Adoption, for a lot of people, as they think about it, is for some folks, it's just such a big thought. Like, wow, that's crazy to think of going through the process, whether it's international or whether it's here local or stateside or whatever it might be. There's a lot of folks that would love to participate in adoption and take care of little boys and little girls and babies that need homes and moms and dads. And some don't really understand what it takes to be a part of that. How you get involved, what are some of the ups and downs, and the grace that God shows through that process, and of course, the outcome of that, which we're going to talk about. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out. Little Jaylee, who is your all's daughter now, and 4-year-old, and she is awesome. And I will say this before we go, I've never seen her meet a stranger. Like, as soon as she walks up, like, she's talking, like she's
all over.
I mean, it's awesome. So, how did you guys get involved in adoption?
So I've always felt that calling since I was a teenager. I've had the calling that I wanted to do foster or adoption. Okay. Always. I was married before Garrett, and that was an absolute no. And so I never actually felt it again. I was like, well, I guess I'll never get to.
Yeah.
Well, led through divorce. Years later, I met Garrett, and I had the feeling again.
Okay.
So once we're married, I kind of mentioned it, and he was...
Did you know?
No.
He did not know. Idea? He has no idea. So I mentioned
I never had
it.
this calling either. I was being
No, he does
100%.
Yeah.
So once I found out his mom was actually adopted, and I was like, oh, he'll be open to this. This is going to be awesome. So I mentioned it. And he never said yes. He never said no. He just kind of like pretty much ignored it, really.
I don't. When somebody says that to you, like, "Hey, I want to do this," I was like, "Okay," like.
That's not like, hey, I was thinking about, let's just order some pizzas tonight for dinner, right? You're like, all right, cool. No, we're talking about like a huge life-changing, this is like the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you were just like, okay.
Yeah. And I was never against necessarily adoption, but I didn't know like the ins and out and the intricacies of foster.
Oh, yeah.
Because from everything I'd ever read or heard was there's that chance that bio mom and dad could come back, or a grandparent could step up and say, we want the baby back or whatever. Yeah. And for me, I know how I am. Like when I love, like I'm full in.
Yeah.
Like you don't get just a piece.
Yeah.
And so I was afraid that we get a kid in our home, and I knew my kids would be very similar to that too. Kid comes in the home, or the state's like, no, we're going to take them out.
Yeah.
And like, that's
and you're attached.
Yeah.
At that point, you're attached.
Absolutely.
You're invested. Emotionally, you're invested. I could see how that fear, we've got friends, and you guys know, obviously, you know people now that are in the fostering system and helping kids, and it's such a need. Right? We need good, godly parents that step up and open their homes for boys and girls that need a home, whether it's in a crisis or emergency, or they just don't have a place to live. But I do think the other side of that a lot of times people don't talk about. We talk about the need, but we don't talk about the step of faith that it takes, because you open that door, it's like, dude, all right. I don't know if you ask me. Yeah, I'll open my home up right now. But I'm like you. It's like, all right, if I become a father figure to this little boy, little girl, or a bunch of little boys and little girls, whatever it might be, and then they're removed from my home for whatever reason, whether they're relocated or somebody adopts them or whatever, dude, that's crushing. And how do you manage that? So that's an unbelievable fear. So and a thought, how did you overcome that?
Didn't.
Were you afraid of that, Kim?
I really.
No.
You weren't afraid?
No.
You were like, I got to say this. We've been doing this podcast now for several weeks, and it's always interesting just in the married couples of the husband's approach and the wife's approach, because the husband's like, I've got all these questions, I'm not sure, I'm losing my mind, and if you ask, since this has started, now we may have it reversed before later, but the wife's like, I knew it, Jesus told me, and we're gonna do it. You know what I mean?
That's
and it's
basically the way it was. Because I was like, I'm over here like thinking about everything, like logistically our house. Okay. Ooh. Because in fostering, like the child has, like you have to go through all these different steps of things, and it's a process, but they have to make sure that the child has access to their own bed, typically in their own bedroom, depending on the age. And so I'm over here, like I lost my man cave. Like, so I'm thinking of that. I'm like, well, I don't have a place anymore in the house. And then I was like, okay, so then
Garrett to the garage.
Yeah, basically. Now I have a shop, but that's different. But literally I'm thinking logistically.
Yeah.
Like, how does this work? Like, she's got to be in a room here. Well, we need to have access. Well, what if she's afraid of being alone?
Oh, wow.
All these different things. And so then at the time, Liam and Lily were in the same room together.
Yeah. At this time, you've already got two, right? Or
we have
had
three
at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we have Leighton, who is 11. Liam is now 5, 6. 5. He'll be 6 soon.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Because Liam, I've known him since he was just,
When we first came here, he was still in the nursery.
Yes.
And that was at the old church.
Yes.
And so, then we have Lily, who's 3. So we go 11, 6, 4, 3, and it'll soon be 6, 5, 4. Like they're all like January,
you got
March.
bingo numbers is what you got. That's crazy.
So it's.
Now, Kim, were you having these same thoughts? Like, where are we gonna provide space?
Only when I brought it up, because she's like, "Oh, we'll be all right." That's literally the conversation we had.
I'll figure it out. I'll make it work.
I think so too. I think. Now, this is just me. When you think about working with, who did y'all have to work with fostering? Is that
Child Help?
Child Help is who we went through.
So you got these types of folks that are helping children, but there's rules that go along with that. You can't just show up one day and go, you know what, I'm going to foster some kids. If y'all want to bring a couple over, I've got room in the house, right? No. There's a whole process. You have to be, accepted into the program. I mean, but then I think about too, like they come to your house, right? They do walkthroughs, they look at stuff. I think for most parents and for most people, like I'd be like freaking out. Like, my kids are good, my home's fine, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be judged in the worst way.
Yeah.
I think I'm a good parent. I think I provide well, but what if somebody that's running this, professional organization to help kids be relocated and taken care of go, it's not going to work here. Like, I think I would lose my mind.
Yeah. That crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what if one of my kids just says something else outlandish? They're like, he hit me. I'm like, no.
Yeah, because we've got kids like that
You
would
never
think it
know.
was like a great prank. Like, just to be like, don't do it. You know what I mean? And they'd be like,
Liam would be the one to do it, too.
Yeah, and then they're walking you out like, okay,
Yeah,
the
like,
investigation.
this is not a good fit.
Yeah, that would be, like, to me, that would be a nerve-wracking. We make fun, but it would be nerve-wracking. But yet you're stoic and you're like, nah.
Yeah. Well, because I felt it all along. So going back to our backstory a little bit, he was like, Well, then we moved here. We moved here for him to start a job, open up an insurance agency, and there was a lot going on. So I was like, okay, we're just moving to a new area. I haven't mentioned it since. We have Leighton that was at the time 5, and then Liam was a couple weeks old or months old now. And then so I didn't mention it. Well, then 6 months of us moving here, he actually lost his business. And I was like, oh, definitely you can't now. Because, we got to be somewhat stable a little bit. So we went on a rocky road with all of that for quite a while. Honestly, he went down a depression area he probably doesn't want to admit about. But it was rough for a while.
Yeah.
So I kept praying about it. Well, anyways, he gets another job. We're good. Well, then we decided, okay, he doesn't want adoption. Well, I think I'm ready for another one. So Liam's like 19 months old. We tried to have another child. Well, that one led into the miscarriage. And then I was like, well, okay, that's God's plan. So
it's so hard. Like that fundamentally changes you as a couple too.
I did a little bit.
Yeah.
So we go through that. And then literally 2 weeks after I miscarried, we lost my 7-year-old niece. And then that was a very, very difficult time. But then the whole time during all of that, I'm grieving, but then like it comes back at me again. Like maybe you lost a child because you are supposed to adopt. You're supposed to foster. That was your calling. And so I was like, okay, so that I'm wrestling with those thoughts again. So I bring it back up to him. And this time he just kind of, again, well, I don't know, kind of ignores it, I guess. Well,
I never knew what to say.
6 months later, actually get pregnant again. We have Lily. So then I'm like, well,
and
okay.
Lily is awesome, by the way.
Oh, that baby. Woo-wee.
She runs the roost.
She does. Yes, she rules it.
So
man.
then once we have her, I'm like, well, okay. This is probably, we got 3 kids. It's probably out the window.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be it.
Yeah. They
Like, I
come
was
to
like,
church.
I think it would be important too for those that are watching rather than just listening. During these days, you did have hair.
I did.
It's gone now.
Like this journey has had a lot of ups and
For
downs.
sure.
One of those includes you losing all of your
He lost
hair.
all of it.
Yeah.
I remember
That's
the day you
awesome.
showed up at the church, and I was like, he's going through something. Because I mean, like you left church, had hair, show back up, no hair.
Yeah.
I was like, man.
Well, we made an agreement on it because I was losing it in like the top. And she's like, well, you're so tall. No one ever sees it. And I was like, I know it's there. Like, I know.
I remember
I'm
you telling me
self-conscious.
that. Like, I know that's
And so we went on a trip, just the two of us with her brother and sister-in-law. And I said, when we get back, I'll keep it for the trip. When we get back, it's gone.
Cutting
and
it
she
off.
said, okay.
Yeah.
And it's been gone since. Now the kids loved it at first. They hate it now. They're like, Dad,
there's a whole religion sect that literally cuts that part of their hair off.
That's what it
just
looked like
so
I
the
was.
sun can shine. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, we don't do that to Grove.
Yeah, no, we don't. So you've got all these ups and downs. It's taking a toll. Now, because of the loss of a child, but then also the birth of a child, we're considering again.
Yes.
You are. Kim is.
That's
But
right.
you're like,
I thought once Lily got here, I said, we're complete.
yeah.
Like, hey, we're ready to rock and roll. It's Hey,
Yeah.
Davidson party of 5.
Yes.
That's legit what I thought. And I
That
was like,
makes
"All right,
so
we're
much sense. Being a Martin party of 7, Davidson party of 5 sounds so more mature.
good." Well, you started off Martin party of 5.
we
the
jumped
boys
right
got
from 2 to 5 like
yeah.
that.
So
Yeah. So okay. So now you're thinking, okay, this is over, but God's touched your heart, and what happens?
I've been
after
praying
that?
on it. They literally come to us right here at the Grove.
Wednesday night,
Wednesday night,
Yes.
Child Help shows up.
she goes and
My
sits
heart
like
is beating out of my
Which
chest.
is so random.
third row.
I would
She's
like
up
Holy
there.
Spirit talking.
Because when we start talking about like stories of grace, okay, like a lot of things had to happen to this point. Like you had to relocate from Memphis, you had to get here, went through some, you're thinking about fostering or adoption, and you're over here just like, that didn't even cross my mind. And then in God's divine wisdom, like we only do Sunday mornings and we do Wednesday nights. So we don't give away those spots a lot to like just different speakers because we have so many pastors here. We're like, you all do it. But this organization had actually reached out to us just randomly because Kurt, who I have
Right.
interviewed on this podcast, who's telling his story, had said, hey, man, I'm doing this now, and it's a great opportunity for people to get involved. Would you mind if we come and just talk about it? And Kurt, being a good friend of mine, was like, man, no, I think it would be fantastic. Not thinking anything about it because I've sat through so many conferences and different things. I was like, man, this will be good for the church. I knew of another couple that was considering adoption or fostering, and I thought, well, this would just be good. Did not realize you all were about to be the
Me
ones die. She's
I'm
like,
be
you want to go to
honest.
church? I'm sure.
I remember that day vividly because the youth room was not built out yet.
Right.
So it had the garage door, but it had the concrete and it had the rafters everywhere, like no sheetrock on the walls, nothing.
Yeah.
And Chad Owings was out there. Again, it's like the Owings is like very tied
Central,
into our
yes.
Grove story. He was working on golf cart. He had the clutch. One of the youth had like broke it out, and we were. So I was just helping. I was just like, oh, because I'll be honest. When I walked in, I saw Child Help, like a little, like there was one little poster banner.
Yeah,
things.
like a banner.
And I was like,
Not
Nope.
tonight.
yeah. So I saw Chad. He's like, hey, you want to help me? I was like, absolutely. I do. And so we go out there. Well, she
know this
she
part.
goes.
Yeah,
she goes third row,
You
like
went to
in the front, just.
Yeah. You went to Chad Help.
Yeah.
Well, Child Help.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there.
exactly.
Right, I got you.
And so we get done with it. And he's like, all right, well, I'm leaving. And we got done in like 15 minutes. I was like, can we make this a little longer? That's what I'm
Are you
thinking.
sure you want me to drive this around?
But he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go, because the youth was also meeting. He's like, I'm just going to go hang out back there. And I was like, I better go in there with Kim, because she's going to like say something to me if I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person, my entire life, if like I'm late to something, I'm not going. Like school, if like I was 2 minutes late to a class, I would not go in because I didn't want people to be like,
Right, like
that door
checking
closing,
Can I say to you, if that were my philosophy, I would have missed my whole life.
Same.
Because I am late to
I'm
everything.
early to everything.
I would still be in the nursery
But that's the thing
where
is,
my
like,
mom
I married the
delivered.
person who is like, we'll get there. I'm like, what? No. We got to be there 10 minutes early. She's like, nah, we'll get there.
Yeah, that's me. I'm just like, I tried real hard.
Same, I know.
And so, I've got a T-shirt at home. Some folks from the church bought me. It said, "I hate being late," and then it says, "But I'm so good at it." You know what I mean? Like I am.
Yeah.
All right, so you're late. You're going in.
And I go in, and then I didn't know Kurt at the time, but I knew of him because of just around church and stuff.
Sure.
And I saw him sitting over there, and I was like, oh, maybe he's
Everybody
getting ready.
sees Kurt.
Well, yeah, he's actually one of the only people that's taller than me. Not Tyler Brown.
He's
Kurt is, though.
But Kurt is tall. Yeah,
is.
He's a presence.
He is, but,
love that
he's
guy.
a big teddy bear.
Oh, I love that guy.
That's the thing about him
Yes.
is like you're like because he's got the sleeve,
The sleeve, yeah.
and you're like I don't know
This guy could crush me.
yeah, but then you go up to him and he's just a big old teddy bear,
Unbelievably.
and but so I go in and sit down and he's sitting over there and there's probably 25, 30 people there, and I was like okay, I don't see anybody that is normally at Wednesday night, and I was like they probably got the message and said well I'm not going to that. So I'm sitting there and I promise she was just like a kid in a candy store, just like listening, soaking it all in. And I'm like,
This is gonna be bad.
and so they finish, and I remember vividly leaning over to her and I said, "So we're fostering, aren't we?"
Oh wow.
Like that's the moment
You
I
knew
knew
it. You knew it.
That was it. Like but it took literally God placing it right in front of me, slapping me in the face with it, like, "No, you're doing this.
Yeah.
This is your calling."
And even when he was trying to place it right in front of you, you were running anyway.
I ran into
you
the
went to the
garage. I was
golf
like,
cart.
nah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
good.
no, yeah.
But legit, but she has always, and I didn't. Like she had told me when we were still in Memphis, like I want to foster one day. I was like, that'd be cool. So anyway, it never really like touched me until we were here at the Grove in that meeting, Child Help, and then she goes and I leaned over and say that to her, and she's like, "Yep, I'm gonna go give them my information." And she goes and talks to Amy for probably 25 minutes. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go get the other kids, like
Kids we need to talk.
Yeah. But she'd already convinced Leighton. Like her and Leighton are very, very close, and they'd already had that conversation. And Leighton kept saying like, I want to do that. I think that'd be fun.
Oh,
but she didn't realize like what all it does
about to
entail.
happen. Yeah. You were on the way to the car like, kids, I normally don't not like coming to church, but I feel like this is going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
Because, we make light of it, but literally that moment changed your life forever.
Absolutely.
I mean, and God ordained it all to get it there. Like, even when you're trying to run away from it, he's like, I'm gonna drop this right on your feet. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm coming to your front porch. And you walk out, the decision's been made. So the way I'm hearing this is you all actually got into adoption because ultimately, and kind of to steal the thunder again, you have permanently adopted Jaylee, who we'll talk about in just a moment, but you got there by first being willing to foster, right? So you start the process, and what happens? How long after you signed up?
I think at least probably 6 months. So we sign up. They end up calling us and contacting us, and it's like, all right, so have you guys agreed on it? This is what you want to do? Yes. So it's a thing called 10 key classes. Is it called 10 key? Yeah, 10 key classes. So it's like is it 6 weeks maybe?
Something around that.
It's some classes you got to take, and honestly, it was very intriguing to me. Wow. It even taught me stuff about like Leighton because it teaches you about different disorders and how to handle different behaviors and
psychologically.
It was
a fantastic thing to do because I think, we just say, I'll adopt. Yeah, I'll foster. Yeah, I'll take care of kids. But there's so many things that go along with
it.
it.
We started applying it to our kids at home already, and it worked. And I was like, they know what they're talking about. Like, this is wild.
The professionals,
And I'm like, because you think, nobody. There's not a book on parenting.
Yeah.
And so you think I'll be all right, but it's crazy because what works on Leighton doesn't work on Liam, but it might work on Lily. And then it's like they all just their personalities. You just have to do things differently. You have to talk to them differently. You have to discipline them differently. And so this opened my eyes to it. And I was like, they're like, if you have a child that does this, try this. And one of the big things is time in, not time out.
Okay.
Where you literally you sit with them like this. And you're talking to them like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, let's talk." But you're with them because timeouts, you're isolating them.
Yeah, I think that time I've never heard of that, but I think that would correct my behavior real quick.
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm like, I'll say whatever you want to get me out of this. Like, stop talking, Mom, please. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it really did work, and so
that's awesome.
We did have to go through that. It was about 6 weeks, and then once we got through that. Then, I think Child Help all came out and they were like checking the home and you had to have a plan for everything. Like you had to have it posted. You had to have certain things like fire extinguishers in certain areas.
You kidding me?
I had to draw an escape plan of our house.
What?
It has to be posted.
Has to be posted.
Okay, listen, I'm not knocking that. I think that sounds fantastic, but I don't have one.
Yeah.
Like, I think my escape plan, like this
Just
is making.
run.
Well,
Run out.
honestly, we should have had one sooner because Leighton has always been afraid of a fire.
Yeah,
always.
I think it's fantastic, but you don't think about that.
You don't. You really
like
don't.
For 20 years, my boys turned 20 next week, and for 20 years, we've just been trying to swim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if somebody had asked me, "Do you have an escape route at your house?" I'd be like, "No." I mean, we just run out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that is fantastic.
And it's still posted on our fridge. Like we're no longer technically in with Child Help or anything, but it's still there. And I'll look at it every now and then, and I'm like, man, that seems like a lifetime ago.
Oh wow!
But I look at it and I look at my drawing. I'm like, okay, that's what we should do. I guess I did do the right things, but so then we're going through that process, and then I think they were like, okay, you're actually available to foster, like you're on a list where we can actually send
your home's open, it's ready to roll.
But the thing is at that point they say you're also available for respite, and respite is like a weekend. where
Okay.
a child, if like some other foster family didn't get approval to take said child out of state or something, or if they just needed it sounds bad, but like they just needed a break.
Okay,
if
yeah.
they were like, hang on, give us a break. That's how we met Jaylee.
No kidding.
I was 100% against that because of the attachment thing.
Yeah, you're gonna have.
I said, you're gonna bring. I told Kim, I was like, I don't want to do respite. She's like, why? And I'm like, because we're going to bring a child into our home, even if it's for a day. I know our kids; they're gonna get attached.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen. And she's like, no, it won't. And I'm like, yeah, it will. So a Friday evening, Kim says, hey, we're doing respite this weekend. She just signed up.
Like
They called
what
me
time
and
on
I
a
couldn't
Friday?
say
Like
no for some reason on
just
that.
Friday evening, she tells you this.
It was Friday. Probably we were at work, and it was probably.
I think I texted you and
Yeah,
said,
she texted
hey,
me. Hey,
child care just called and they asked will we do respite, and I said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at 2:00.
Yeah, whatever you
never
had planned on
asked him.
Friday.
She didn't ask, but and it was literally.
I don't think she. Yeah, I see Kim just telling you that.
Yeah.
Like,
And then
hey,
they said,
have kids.
Kim's like, child help will be there at 6:00. And I'm like, 6:00? I hadn't been home. What are you
I
talking
didn't
about?
have this in my day planner.
Yeah, at all. And I'm very. I want to have it my days planned out. I don't
Yeah,
need
no
to-
kidding. You've got a fire escaper out on your
Yeah.
refrigerator.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. So,
I mean, you
but
know?
I remember sitting in my living room in my chair. Kim had just gotten home, so she's still in scrubs. I at least got home, got to change into some different clothes.
Yeah.
I had all the other kids there, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And then Kim says, hey, they're gonna be there at 6, so she gets there like 5:45.
Were you nervous?
No, because I was more mad. I'm like, are we doing this?
Yes, this
Like,
is Friday, Kim.
yeah, my weekend shot.
Yeah.
I walk in, he's giving me a look.
What month was this? Is this like summertime?
This is September.
September.
Of 2022.
Okay,
Yeah,
September
so-
2022.
Um,
So 2 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, gone.
And that's the first time we ever met Jaylee. But the thing was, is when she texted me, I said, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, they're bringing it. Her name is, I think it's Jaylee, but everybody calls her Jelly. And I said, what? What are we doing? Like, this is
Jelly
not real.
Belly, or they call her Jelly Bean, or Jelly.
I actually
Just
call her-
Jelly, I
They
think.
call her
I don't
just
know.
Jelly
I don't know.
because she couldn't say her name.
Oh.
She was pretty much nonverbal. But
Well, she comes in, and I feel like I'm not even kidding. This haircut this kid had was the worst
it
thing
was
I'd ever seen.
tedious. It was so
It was a bowl
hideous.
cut.
It was-
Like, I mean, bangs went to here, just straight, and then it was bowl cut. Like, I looked like they literally put a bowl on her head and said, meh. And she comes in. I'm not, first thing she does, she comes right up to me and says, Daddy. I was
Oh,
like,
no. You melted.
I was like, I'm not ready for this.
It's over.
It wasn't.
No,
I was
he
like,
was mad.
No,
He
I
was
was
like,
like,
was he
I was
mad?
just like, no, we're not. I said that. I was like, we're not saying that
So
right now.
you're in this protection mode, really trying to
am.
protect your heart, protect your emotions, protect your family, because this respite thing is like it's your
it's
fear
guaranteed
on
temporary.
steroids.
Yes.
I mean it is absolutely your fear in this whole process on steroids. And Kim was like, I think we'll start that on a
Yeah.
Friday without him
Yeah.
knowing. Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
So
exactly-
you dove right in the deep end.
Like she finally got me like, okay, I'm cool with fostering. Like I went to the class. I was like, yeah, we're good, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's like, there's a selection process, you know? I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, and they kind of give you an idea of like, hey, it's a this age kid. It's a boy. This is what's going on. Would you be interested?
Well, in the beginning, they also ask you, like in the very beginning, they say, what is it that you're wanting? I mean, you kind of pick.
think
It's almost
that's
like you get to pick like,
Oh, okay.
what kind of kid you want. So we both agreed that we wanted age anywhere from age 2. Well, I first wanted a teenager, but he talked me out of teenager, which was okay.
Well, Leighton,
for the better.
Leighton wanted
'cause
that too.
Leighton was-
But then she said, I like being the oldest.
Yeah,
Like
that's
she,
right.
she
She
came
ended
and
up,
said,
so we
she
said,
was
okay.
like, well, I like being the oldest. And we were like,
You know,
okay.
I think that's important too in this part of the story is every family's different. And it's, I think that's a good thing that they allow you this opportunity to kind of say, hey, we want to open our home, but based on where we are in life, based on how many children we have or don't have, based on our personalities or our work schedule or whatever, this would actually be a better suited person for our home.
Right.
Not necessarily that we would not take, people or whatever, but this would best suit us. I
Right.
think that's a pretty cool thing,
I think we originally said, though, boy.
We did. So we said age, then we narrowed the age down from 2 to 8. But we'd prefer a boy because we have 3 girls and 1 boy, and we like to kind of even that out.
Yeah, cool.
So, I mean, like, if you're going to tell me I'm get to pick, well, hey, I'm going to tell you exactly gender and everything. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
So,
We didn't get a boy.
No.
well,
You got
We got Jaylee.
we got
Jaylee.
Jaylee. And
Yeah.
it
So
turns
Jaylee
out good.
shows up.
So yeah. And actually, let me back up just a tad bit. So, also, they tell you you get to pick, but then in the very beginning, you also have to give references. And so, like, you got to say, like, people that kind of know you. How do you discipline, like, that have seen us with our children.
Seen you parent.
Seen you
basically.
parent. And so, my parents, I told them in the beginning, they were open to it. And
Her brother, my brother, and then both of their wives, they were fine with it. But we told my parents.
which I thought would be
Completely against
completely
it.
open because she's adopted.
Oh, wow.
Completely against it.
Wow. Was that
yeah.
hard on y'all? Like just the pressure of that, I think.
He probably never mentioned it, but it cut. It
Yeah.
cut a little bit.
Well, and I guess too, you got to understand too, like your parents want what's best for you. They're bringing ideas and thoughts into it. So
Right.
to say, hey, mom, dad, because I think our parents still see us as
That little kid.
little kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're 15, 16, whatever, or younger. And we're just out here flying by the seat of our pants. And
Yeah.
they're like, what are you? You've got 3. What are you doing?
It didn't. Yeah, and it didn't. I was indifferent.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way that like my relationship is. Like
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that's
Yeah,
fine. Like
so-
I'm an adult. Like
Yeah.
I have kids of my own.
Like, I'm going to do this.
Like it makes me mad more than anything because it did hurt her, and like
Wow,
being
I
that
see.
protector, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, okay, well, that's fine. If you want to be that way, that's fine. You just won't be around the kids.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yeah.
that's honestly like where it led to.
Oh, wow. And that's hard, you
It
know,
was.
making those decisions. I think sometimes people don't understand how complicated a single decision is on not just your home, but the relationships around
Your
it.
whole family
You know,
and
that's
everyone
one
else.
of the things that we've learned from this podcast. You know, when we're talking to the Lymans, they made a decision, and it ultimately affected their kids. It affected their friend network. It affected their friends' friends. I mean, like these ripple effects. You know, I did a series a few years ago called The Butterfly Effect, and the idea is, you know, when a butterfly flaps its wings, it affects change, you know, on down the road. It's like throwing a rock into an ocean, and the ripple effect. That's where you're headed, and there's all kinds of ripples in this thing.
Oh yeah.
So you go in. All right, so Jaylee shows up,
Yes. So
bowl cut and all.
I'm bowl cutting off.
You're
it's a mess.
aggravated.
It's-
I'm
You're
very.
like, oh my gosh, Friday. Yeah.
There's literally Kim took a picture of me the day Jaylee got there with all 4 kids, and like
she's sitting in his lap.
she's sitting in my
too.
lap.
She's-
She just climbed up, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing?
In my
And
mind, what
you
I
can
see,
see this. I'll have to find the picture. I'll send it to you.
yeah, that'd be awesome. In my mind, what I see is like one of those old black and whites. Like if
Yeah.
if you go up to Pigeon Forge, you can take like the old Western, photos in the black
Yeah.
and white, and like they're like, don't smile, and you're like, brr. You know what I mean?
That's what it was.
That's
You're
what it
like,
looks like.
best day of our
all the
life.
other
We're
kids
starting fall.
so happy. They're smiling, and Dad's just.
And I think it's important for our listeners to understand it's not because you were against fostering, but this was literally
It's my biggest fear.
your biggest fear. And
And she just poured gasoline on it.
Yeah,
She's
they're
like,
like-
light a match. Here
yeah,
we go.
she's not staying. They're coming to get her. She's just here for a break.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happens?
So she comes in. We have her for the weekend from Friday. Well, actually, I met at the time. Kurt was our care coordinator, but he was out on surgery. He had had neck surgery, I think. And so we had Caitlin. She was like, I'll pick her up Monday. I'll meet you at your work and I'll pick her up. So we just had her for the weekend. We went to the park. We had a good time. The only thing was when she walked into my house, she immediately was, like Tasmanian devil, like, choom, choom, choom. And I was like, whoa.
Jaylee was.
My kids are typically like, they can be wild, but not. I'm just like, whoa. Yeah. She's only for the weekend for sure. Like if I would have said she could be hanging from a chandelier, like, I'm not over exaggerating.
Like
the kid was
it just
wild.
happened? Just like she turned it on?
Yeah.
Yeah. She come in and she,
We found out that she never had like
Structure or anything.
like no structure, like
Okay,
zero.
okay. I
So
got you.
it was her older sister, who's a twin, but this older sister's Leighton's age,
Okay.
was basically her mom.
Wow.
And she let her do whatever, lots of different things. So she's not joking. Like, she came in our house, ran up to the bar, like where they eat, she's like, oh, looking up there. And then she's like over at the table. And then she's,
in my washing machine, like in my washing machine.
What are you doing? But like, she could not verbalize either.
So what I'm hearing is this doing exactly like you planned it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've got the fire route on my fridge. I was not prepared for a kid in my washing machine.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that would blow my mind.
She was wild. And so I was like, whoo. Monday, I'm like, I'm exhausted.
I bet.
So she was removed from the state. Actually, Mom had dropped her off at a family friend and said, I can't take care of my kids. Mm-hmm. I'm dropping them off with you.
I think originally she'd said, hey, I'll be back to come get them.
Yeah. I think maybe that's
And it was the twins, the twins that are Jaylee's siblings, and then Jaylee. Those three were dropped off at a friend's house. This mom already had 4 or 5 kids of her own. So then she's got 8 now.
Oh, wow.
And then she finally surrendered them to the state and was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm taking care of mine. I can't, like, it's too much.
Which I think we have to interject here too. Yeah, everybody's circumstances are different. Mm-hmm. But in this case, that mom made a great decision by saying, I can't imagine the turmoil as a parent, as a mom, as a dad, or whatever, getting to that point. But even in the chaos, even in the pain and the hurt, there was enough wisdom to say, somebody can help my kids. Right. Mm-hmm. And so even in that, we see grace. Mm-hmm. Grace is coming. God's going to take care of these babies and get them to the right people. You just didn't know that the one's about to be dropped off at your house is like a top somebody pulled a string on it and just running. No.
It's exactly what it was like.
So now she leave? So
she leaves on Monday, and she's going back to another home.
Okay.
And they're reuniting the twin or the siblings back together because they
typically want to keep siblings together.
Yeah.
When they can. So like the twins were never going to be separated because literally they shared a womb. They've been together. They've done life together always.
Absolutely.
The state determined that Jaylee needed to be separated from the twins because of the mama bear of her older sister. It wasn't a good structure for her. Like they realized, hey, they're both excelling separately.
To give the greatest amount of growth.
We can do that. But one of the things about the respite was she was originally supposed to go back to the same family that was on respite. During that weekend, they decided they no longer wanted to foster.
And their decision is actually setting up a decision that's coming your way.
It is.
But you don't know that.
Yeah. No, I was like, that stinks. That's literally in my head. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to work Monday. See you. Like that's where I was.
They go back to this home. I think they're only there like maybe 2 days. Well, then they separate them again. Jaylee goes to another home that was going to take her permanently. The twins go to another home that's taking them. And the home that she went to, Jaylee had just gotten her flu shot, and this particular family had a newborn baby that they don't like immunizations, like they're anti-vaccine people. So they found out Jaylee had her flu shot, and they're like, oh, no, she's not coming back in our home.
Oh, wow.
So now Jaylee's been, and then she goes somewhere else. Anyway, I think it's a total of 5 homes. They call me back.
All these doors are shut.
Within a month.
All these are just shutting.
Yeah.
They call me back, and Caitlin says, Kim, so I know you told me that was a lot.
Talking about taking care of Jaylee.
Yeah, taking care of Jaylee. She said, but all the homes that we've thought she was going to that wanted her, it just hasn't worked out. She said, will you consider fostering full-time Jaylee?
She came to me on this one.
I said, let me think on it and let me pray on it, because I really wanted Jaylee to be with her siblings. I really did. I thought it would be the best.
Yeah.
So I said, let me pray on it. I don't know about her being fully separated is what is best. So
I can imagine as a mama, you're having all these thoughts. Wow.
Yeah, so I text Garrett. He does say okay.
Yeah.
He says okay.
Dear
we'll
Garrett,
give it a shot.
Boy, do I have some news for you.
Yeah.
Coming Friday at 6 o'clock.
Oh, man.
Round 2.
We talked about it at this time.
So she said, okay, it's Wednesday night. Monday's off for Thursdays.
Yeah.
So she said, I can bring her tomorrow, Wednesday night. I said, that'll be good. We'll do Wednesday night. So this time she walks in, and boy, oh boy, was she still bull in the china shop, Tasmanian devil. So I'm like, all right, tomorrow's my day off. We're going to start first thing with structure. Like, she didn't know how to sit on a couch. She sat on the couch backwards and faced the back of the couch. Had no clue how to sit on a couch and actually face the TV.
Wow.
She was nonverbal for the most part. I mean, she could say some stuff, but I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. And then I'd be like, open the fridge. Tell me what it is you want. She couldn't even point to milk or to, like, that communication was just, there was zero.
And she's 2 at the time?
2 at the time.
Wow.
Or like 2.5. She turned 2 in January, and here we are. It was now October. It was October 19th.
So she's almost 3.
It's October 19th. And so I'm like, all right. So I start that Thursday. I'm like, I started with some sign language that I learned forever ago. And I was like, okay, yes, no. Like,
you're doing the whole thing. Like, we're going to learn this
today.
Yeah.
I was at work. At this time,
And I
was
take all the other
home.
kids to school, you know. And so I can have that one-on-one time. And then I'm like, wait, Friday's tomorrow, and I got to go to work. What do I do with this kid? Like, who's our babysitter?
Yeah.
My other kids are in daycare. She's not enrolled in daycare. What do I do with her?
Word. We didn't even think about
So
that.
I called Child Help, which, by the way, is a phenomenal
great
adoption
organization.
center, foster
Organization.
organization. So I called them. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll get someone to keep her, no problem. I will meet you at your work, pick her up." So Friday morning they pick her up. She comes right back Friday afternoon.
When they dropped her off on that Wednesday night, though, I'm not like, I've seen different things in life of like desperation and whatnot, of, you know, just people's misfortune and whatnot. When you bring a 2-year-old kid and all she's got is a trash bag full of like some stuffed animals. She had one duffel bag that we will not use anymore. She has it. It's hers, but it's put up. Cause I'm like, that's her old life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a duffel bag, black and white duffel
And
bag.
it had the clothes in there, like, and this is we're almost into winter, and it's all summer clothes. And I'm like,
Now
what
we
is
have a
she
situation,
like? What's she gonna wear?
Like, from the ground
But it
up.
was the saddest thing. Like this, she had a black trash bag with like stuffed animals. She had one dog, stuffed animal, and then she had this duffel bag and a trash bag full of just random clothes that can maybe last her 2 weeks before you have to like rewash and stuff. And I was just like, how's this fair?
Yeah.
You know, like, what did she do to deserve this?
So all of a sudden,
Then it starts hitting me.
old frowny face Garrett he's melting.
Yeah.
So now you got
So
a
I
mission.
melted, but come to find out, Jaylee didn't, because she was afraid of me,
She was.
big time.
Terrified.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we'll get into Jaylee's full backstory. Because at the time I asked State, I'm like, do you know anything about her? Like, actually, no. She just comes into our care. She was dropped off. You know, we think she's autistic, but we don't really know. And that was because of the nonverbal and how hyper she was. And she didn't feel pain. The kid could fall. I mean, she was very clumsy. Like, she
Still
fell
is.
all the time.
She still is very clumsy, but
She
she's gotten better.
would have this huge goose egg. Like,
Hit
she
her
could be
head,
bleeding,
whatever.
and she would just get up like, oh, I didn't feel that.
She'd fall out
was-
of so we have bar stools, and she has hers, and she would fall out of that. She didn't know how to get out of a chair. She got out of it, fell smack down on the floor, and she was like, eh.
Just hop up.
And that's but it was like that noise. So she's like, eh. Not like, I'm okay. She was like, eh. And then she just, and I was like, well, I was like, JJ, hey, are you okay? Because, you know, my kids do that. You know, I'm like, okay, let's calm down. But she
You're like,
just,
you're
so
not
it freaked me out not seeing the same reaction. I'm like, and like, yeah, it would be like big old goose egg.
Doggone.
And she's just,
Moving along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I asked them, and they're like, nothing. We don't know, nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll wing it. Sure. Well, okay, so now we're like, okay, she's ours, so we're going to start our full routine like we do with our other children as well, putting them to bed. It was Lily goes to bed first, 8 o'clock, and then Liam is like stair-stepped at 8:30, and then Leighton gets a little later at 9. But each kid, I go in with them, like, we do a little Bible story, we do prayer, and we lay them down. So it's Jaylee's turn. I go into her room, then here comes Garrett. She immediately,
Freaks out.
oh, it'll give me chills. She puts her hand straight out and she says, no, no, no. She's crying. Big alligator tears.
Because
Crying.
you're in there.
because I just
She
walked
says,
in.
not my room, not my room.
So I just walk
Mine,
out.
She's pretty much nonverbal. She says, not my room. hands out crying, like hair standing up.
way.
I'm like, something's not
You're
right.
like, okay.
So I'm
I
like,
was
okay.
okay. Because I was gonna do like I do to everyone else. Is like normally bedtime, the kids want mom. Like that nurturing comes out with
Yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Whereas dad's like, I'll sit with you, but like I ain't talking. Like we're going to
Good
sleep.
night.
Hey,
Yeah.
let's go.
Go to school
Mom's
tomorrow.
like, hey, let's all these things. I'm like,
Cuddle
okay.
up, yeah.
I'm not a cuddler at all. So I go into Jaylee's room like I do with everybody else. Because normally I go in and say, all right, love you. I'll see you in the morning. And give them a kiss. Go into Jaylee's room. Literally, Kim's standing right beside where the open door is. I walk in. Jaylee's in the bed and like sits up and starts doing that. And I was like, I'm just gonna go. Like,
Yeah.
I was gonna come say goodnight, but I was like, no. We didn't know. Like that went on for a long time. Like that was a huge obstacle. And then one day it kind of went away. I guess I don't know. Like
She trusted you.
Yeah, I started. I think it was because I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't like. She never met her dad.
Oh, wow.
Like her dad didn't even know Jaylee existed until
we start this process.
Until we go through this process.
Wow. Of the adoption
yeah.
process.
And so we don't really know the full story on that. We have some inclinations on certain things, and I'm just like, And so I said, I'm going to give her space and let her. But I told Leighton that, like, probably that next day, I said, Leighton, I need you to come and like sit in my lap. And she was like, why? And I said, so that Jaylee sees that
Connected.
You can sit in my lap and nothing's going to happen.
Like you're a
And
safe
then,
space.
and then I'd have Lily too. So I'd have both girls.
Yeah.
And then I could see Jaylee looking. I said, you want to get up here? No. I was like, okay. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But originally, when she came in the home, she went straight to him.
That's what was so
Until
bizarre.
he tried to come in her room, and then she hated him.
It was.
So I knew something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
And then there was going to the bathroom. There were some problems. I'm like changing. She was in diapers, and I'm like, something's not right. So anyway, I contact Child Health, and they're like, we don't know.
We don't know
That we know. There's no backstory. We don't know. So I'm like, okay. I take her to the doctor because she has to establish with the doctor. Like that's another requirement of the state. They've got to have yearly physicals, yearly dental. Like they need to see a doctor. So I establish her here in Roane County, and I take her to a doctor, and I tell him a little bit of my concern, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to have child advocacy reach out to you. I think this needs to be worked up.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. So they reach out to me. I take her to the Child Advocacy Center, and this one's a little difficult. So they lay her on a bed. She's in stirrups pretty much. There's screens on the wall.
They have to.
A lot of people. So they're doing a medical forensic investigation. It was horrific. It was very horrific. She's screaming to the top of her lungs. I'm putting my face up against her face. Her tears are on my face. I'm pretty much crying with her. But I'm also telling her it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, how do you tell a 2-year-old that it's okay? Anyway, so I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. They're helping you. They're helping you. The nurse practitioner thought there was a concern. We have to follow up again. They questioned me. They asked, some other things. Well, anyways, long story short, she's okay. There was some things that happened, but she's all right. And so, and then I actually got some records because she had to go have a back x-ray as well. She has some scoliosis that they saw, so she had to go have an x-ray. So while I'm doing that, they asked something about her. Oh, she's been here before. I'm like, oh, has she? So I somehow got some records that I was not supposed to have.
Like legally, they were supposed to.
They were just given to me. I'm not going to call anyone out because that was illegal for them to do. But I got her records. I got her birth records and everything.
Wow.
She's had a skull fracture.
Oof. She's been abused.
She's been abused.
She was born with cleft foot.
She's a cleft foot. She was been in the NICU for I think like 2 months, if I remember right. Wow. She was born addicted to drugs. She's had this skull fracture. We've had this other thing. So I'm like, wow.
And it starts connecting dots too.
Yeah.
We're like, okay.
And I think at this part of the story, like all that's hard to hear, all that's hard to work through, but I think like what you're experiencing at that moment is like the fears and the worst side of taking care of a child that's not yours, that you're taking into your home, because you really don't know what's about to happen, right? You don't know their backstory. You don't know what's going on with them. And especially when they're young, those children can't verbalize that. And so it's like you guys are not only taking them in your home, but now you've become an advocate, because everywhere that you look, everybody's like, listen, I don't know. We're just trying to help get this person in a safe place with mom and dad. And, because I don't think people realize either how many children need to be placed and how few places there are to place them.
Yes.
Right? And so now you guys went from respite to full mom and dad mode, just like that. Like, boom. Like, Jaylee don't know this yet, but she is fast becoming yours. And that was your fear. Like, okay, now that I know all this, and this baby needs a daddy, she needs a protector, and this baby needs a mama, and she needs a nurturer, she ain't leaving.
Yeah,
right?
That's where I was.
Yeah.
I just remember, when during the day or when the kids are awake, it was like, hey, she's just like the rest of them. But at night, I remember I would sit in my room or laying in the bed or whatnot, and I just think, I was like, what if they just come get her tomorrow? Like how are we gonna handle this? And that was that constantly played in my head.
Fear.
Layton, I never said anything to her. She I guess this thought came into her head every time DHS or Child Help would come to do their monthly or weekly checkups. She would ask them, "You're not gonna take Jaylee, are you?" Like, she was afraid of it. She's like, "Please don't take Jaylee." And then they would say, no, we have to do these. If we have to take her, we will give you a heads up. But they had to tell her that every time. That's a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, and
a 9-year-old at the time.
And that's her sister now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they've already made the switch. And I think, we kind of talked about this off air too, because you're fast approaching the adoption day. But it had an effect on your kids too. You've got this new baby girl in the house, and I made a terrible comparison off air, but when we went through COVID 2020 and everybody's in lockup, my children, all of them, decided that we needed another dog, because we were bored at home and whatever. So we're gonna get a puppy. I let them pick it out. I paid the deposit. And then I picked up the puppy, brought the puppy home. Puppy's cool. Puppy's a puppy. And about 2 weeks later, the new had wore off. Everybody had their little pictures on Snapchat and whatever else they use. And that puppy is mine. Nobody's taking him out. Nobody's feeding him. The dog's looking at me like, all right, it's me and you, pal. And I'm looking at him like, it was their idea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think, too, and the reason I made that comparison is because, everybody's on board. All your children are, we need another sister. But there was a downside to that too, because then the family structure shifted.
Right.
Right. And even, y'all were sharing, without going into detail, but even for Layton being 10 years old, or now 10, 9 at the time, it affected her, because Jaylee, when she steps on the scene, she immediately gets all the attention. She gonna have to. She getting in the washer and dryer, man.
Yeah. We had to put more structure into her than, because our other kids knew it. Layton been in the structure for the longest. Yeah. So it's they all kind of fall in line. Liam fell in line, and then Lily rules the roost, but she still knows her boundaries. Jelly had none. Wow. So mom, especially mom, because it was still very touch and go with Jaylee, with me. Mom was having to spend a lot of time with Jaylee. Like, hey, no, we don't do that, And eating was a big deal, because she would get food and she would just as fast as she could stuff it all. Wow. And we were like, and I remember one time I saw Liam kind of look over and being like, what is she doing? And he's just slowly
he's in disgust. She's just shoving food in her mouth.
And it's everywhere.
But
and we're
it's a survival thing.
It was a survival.
I mean, it's I've got food on the table. I better eat what I can right now. I think that's what people. Obviously, I love doing counseling. I love psychology. I love talking stories. But people don't understand how impressionable people are, and how people are survivors. And this little girl, for 2 years, 24 months, a little bit more at this point, has done everything that she can humanly possible to survive. You know, and who knows what she's seen, who knows what she's been through. You've got a little bit of a picture now, but one thing she did know is when there's food on the table, I need to get what I can get.
Yeah.
And that would tell me that she's gone days without eating or a big gap between meals because you don't do that. I mean, I'm going to go to lunch here in a few minutes and I'm probably going to eat fast and a lot, but that's just because I've got an eating problem.
Same.
But I know I'm going to eat later, so I can take my time. In fact, no, that's not true. I take my time so much that everybody on my staff is done. And they're so mad at me. They're like, "You're still eating?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm trying to enjoy this. You know, it's not running away."
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I think there's so many things like what we're seeing right now for Kim and Garrett and all the babies, and then Jaylee. This beautiful picture of foster to adoption or adoption. The process of getting there is not as beautiful as people may think. However, it is beautiful and more beautiful than people think, right? Like when I hear this, I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Like just the trauma you guys have been through and the fears, the trauma your baby's been through, the experience that your children have. And yet here we are. And what we're celebrating is the fact that Jaylee's yours now. She's a Davidson. She is adopted. Like she's in the family, right? And I think about this, and I think about the Bible says that the spirit of adoption, that we are adopted as children of His, right? And there's hostility between us and God, but He adopts us as sons and daughters, right? And we've all got stories, and that adoption process for some of us in the salvation is different, but He's our Father. And you guys are Jaylee's mom and dad. The black and white bag is put up. One day we'll tell her about it, or you all will. She's verbal.
Oh, yeah. She's come a long way.
Very.
Oh, the grace
She is
amazing.
actually, we came in here and you said, what people are listening to the story and they don't realize that you said, oh no, she's a daddy's girl now.
She is.
Right?
How
beautiful
from
is
where
that?
we went, like it's amazing. Like I take her to school every morning. She takes the other three because she's on the way to work. And so I take Jaylee a little later because daycare doesn't open. And she's like, her manners are fantastic, but like she's always wanting daddy. And like she'll come up to me and like she gives me a hug and then she says, "Love you."
Oh, she holds up the I love
I've
you.
taught all of them that.
The
like,
sign.
Because I was just like, this is the easiest way to communicate that. I was just like, hey,
yeah.
say that. And so she'll say like, I'll be signing her in, and she goes in and she turns around every time. She says, "Daddy, love you." Every time. Like she is daddy's girl now.
Sweet girl.
And so it's.
And I'm telling you, I've now that I've met her and, you know, seen her around, I mean, that baby talks. I met y'all outside the other day.
Yeah.
I walked out. She's on the sidewalk, and here comes your crew, because y'all went from, you know, 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Quick stair steps. And she's the spokesman. She just starts talking to me. She has those little glasses on or whatever, and she's just going to town. And I'm like, okay, yeah, good, Jaylee, all right.
One thing I did want to mention was when we did adopt her.
Yeah.
So her middle name before was Chrislyn, which was something to do with her mom. His name is like a play on that. And so Kim's maiden name is Campbell. And so I said, how about we unite both families?
Oh, nice.
And so she's Jaylee Campbell Davidson.
Nice.
Because I kept the same initial. I was like, that's easy enough. But if you ask her name, she'll say, Jaylee Campbell Davidson. Like she loves saying it.
She loves it.
Yeah.
And you know, her story now is being rewritten. And this isn't to talk about anybody in her past. They've got their own stories. And that's one of the things we talked about here is I was like, what can we talk about? Because I think people need to know that there are major ups and downs, and I'm hearing your story and I'm just telling you, man, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, doggone, you know what I mean?
Oh, there's some very tough days.
And there's even more that you haven't shared, because we would turn this into a 5-episode podcast.
Easily.
and I would rather you keep writing your book about Jaylee, because I'll have you back and you say, all right, catch us up with Jaylee, tell us Jaylee stories. But let me ask you this. If you had people listening and they were considering fostering or adopting, what would you say to them?
I'm going to say go for it, do it, because seeing all the things, I mean, you heard a little bit of some of her backstory, and the fear of them going to take her.
Yeah.
Mom did eventually show back up on a couple calls and was talking about she was going to get her life right and, you know, get her back. And then I would break a little bit.
So worried.
But I did go into it with the heart that she could possibly be taken away. So you kind of got to put that a little bit in perspective. You're doing it, foster care is doing it to try to help that parent. You want that parent just like you would yourself. You don't ever want your child to be away from you. So you want that parent to get their child back. You want them to get their life right, to get their child back.
Agreed.
Like, try to even help be that bridge. Maybe they have never heard salvation, to how to, those shackles and chains to be, dropped off of them. They don't know. They're just been bundled up in this.
Best case scenario is mom's healthy, dad's healthy, child's healthy. That's best case scenario.
Reunification is the ultimate
reunification.
goal of foster care.
Absolutely.
And then her mom does the absolute best decision. She's like, you know what? Y'all have she's been in foster care for a year now. I've had my ups and downs. I'm not getting things right. So she did sign over her complete rights and we were able to adopt. But that's the thing was fostering. Just try to go into it with an open mind. Yeah, you'll be hurt if they rip the child away, but know that you actually were the bridge to love that child. And some of their deepest, darkest moments, they've been ripped away from what they thought all they knew. So just be the bridge and love on them where they are at, and to help the mom or the dad get them back. And then if you want to foster, if you want to adopt and it plays out, then fantastic. You have an awesome story. But,
I think,
I would do it.
Yeah, I think what I hear out of you is like, to do this, it takes a sacrificial love. And what I mean by that is you're putting all your cards on the table and you're going to love. You're selling out. There's a chance that the story goes a different direction. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance that mom, dad, whoever, aunts, uncles, whoever, step up and go, we're gonna raise this baby. And so then it shifts your all story. But the beautiful part in that, and that's not your all story, it is some, but in that child may have been loved in that moment in the greatest way possible, in the way that they needed to prepare them for the next step. Mm-hmm. And I think that takes incredible courage to do that, but it's so needed, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you were willing to do that. Yeah, and you were like, "Oh, please don't let me do this," because you're the big-hearted, lover. And God turned it all the way around and did a whole different story and said, "She's going to be yours," right? And so the day comes, and mom does what mom, needed to do, and we're thankful for that, and all that. But she becomes a Davidson. How did you feel the day it was done?
Oh man. That was, we had the whole family. Like we took our kids out of school. Yeah. Kurt was there. Yeah. Cause he's been with us every step of the way.
Ryan Arneson came.
Oh, right. He met us up there. It was fantastic, but it was just like the relief off of my shoulders that I felt like I had been carrying. I'm like, we got to keep this family, nope, she's mine, like all this. And it was like, no, she is. It's like God just lifted it and like, nope, that's your baby. And, my situation with our family is unique too, because mom is the bio mom for all three of ours. And then you got Jaylee. I'm stepdad to Layton. I got 2 bios and I got adopted. Wow. I love them all the same. But I have to mentally, in the beginning, I had to tell myself that. Like when Liam was born, I was like, I can't treat Layton different than I do Liam. Granted, there's some gray area because of age. Sure. Like you can't, treat your youngest the same way you would treat your one that's driving.
Or a girl and a boy.
Yeah. But then it was like when Lily came, I was like, nope, all the same. And so with Jaylee, in the beginning, there's reservation there. Because I was like, I don't want to go full-fledged. Because what if something happens? But the day that she was adopted, I just got to hold her, just hug on her, love on her. And then she didn't, she knew, she's like, I'm Davidson now. Like she kept saying, I'm Davidson. I was like, you are, baby. I just got to hold her and just love on her and stuff. And so that was an awesome day. Yeah. And what's cool about that too was the day is my brother's birthday and our one of our nephews' birthday. It was January 31st.
And her adoption day.
And that's her adoption day. That's her Davidson day.
Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable.
It's all these, threads, and then it all just makes this beautiful picture. You're just like, wow.
But the beautiful thing for you guys, I want to thank y'all for sharing your story. And there's so many nooks and crannies in there that we could go and may get you back on here to keep talking, because the story's still being written. Mm-hmm. This is just the first leg of this, right? And now we get to watch this young lady grow into becoming a Davidson, you know, and having a brother and sisters and all the complexities. And we know too that, you know, her story for her at some point, it relied on you two. And at some point it shifts to where she's an adult and she's processing all this too, which God's grace continues to cover. But I want to thank you guys for being willing, you know, to step up. So many people, you know, talk about it, but never get the courage. And then some people get hit with the Mack truck when they come to church and go, oh, no, you're doing this, homie.
What's so funny about when you asked us to do this, like I gave you a hug and you were like, hey, I want to have you on the podcast to tell a story. I said, okay. So I told her that day and she goes, why? Yeah. And I was like, to tell her story. She goes, I don't have a testimony about that. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, you're the one that wanted all of this. Like,
After all this, you don't think you have a story?
And then she was like, okay, I mean, yeah. I was like, just talk. Like, and I was like, it's not going to be a very like, and I told her I'd watched some of the other podcasts. I was like, it's not, it's laid back. It's Philip.
It's me.
You know? But yeah, she was like, I don't really have a testimony. I was like, your testimony is the reason we're here.
I think that's beautiful too. And that's a great way to finish is when you're walking in God's will, it's never about you. It's always about somebody else. So then when I go, tell me about your story, like, well, I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. And you're over here going, hang on just a minute because I was freaking out, man.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you all a beautiful couple and a beautiful story. And God's grace is so good. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to our podcast. We will see you next week with another incredible story. Tell from the other side. Love you guys.